A woman goes viral saying she needs a man making half a million a year because her maintenance is $30,000 a month. Another clip says splitting the bill is financial abuse. Someone else is selling a course on how to get men to pay your rent without dating you. And the comments split the same way every time. Half the internet laughs, half the internet cheers, half the internet argues with ghosts, and a lot of men watch it and think, so this is what I'm walking into. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud because it's not clean and it doesn't fit into a single team. It's not that every woman thinks like that. It's that enough of this mindset is loud, rewarded, repeated, clipped, reposted, and normalized that it starts rewriting expectations. When the most extreme behavior gets attention, the extreme begins to feel normal. When extreme demands get applause, the demand becomes a template. When humiliation gets clicks, humiliation becomes a product, and regular people absorb the tone without even realizing the tone changed them. That's why even stable, successful men are quietly stepping back. Not because they hate women, not because they're scared of commitment, not because they can't handle leadership, but because they're doing something men rarely get credit for, an adult cost-benefit analysis. They're looking at the environment and asking a question that cuts through romance talk, social pressure, and online noise. What does this actually cost me, and what do I actually get in return? Because for a growing number of men, modern dating doesn't feel like partnership. It feels like auditioning for sponsorship. It feels like being evaluated as a resource, not chosen as a man. It feels like you're sitting across from someone who isn't asking, who is he? But what can he do for me? And when a man senses he's being assessed like a bank account with a heartbeat, he doesn't lean in. He withdraws, not with rage, with caution. Because caution is what sane people develop after watching enough outcomes. So let's talk about what's really happening. We're watching a shift from relationship building to extraction thinking. Extraction thinking is when dating stops being about compatibility, values, shared effort, and mutual care, and becomes about maximizing what you can take while minimizing what you give. It's when romance turns into strategy. It's when the goal isn't connection, it's leverage. It's when people treat relationships like a marketplace, but demand to be treated like royalty. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can hear it in the language. I know my worth. That phrase can be healthy. It can mean standards, self-respect, boundaries, discernment. But in the wrong hands, it becomes a cover for entitlement. It becomes, I deserve premium benefits for basic participation. It becomes, you should invest in me before I've proven character. It becomes, give me husband treatment while I offer girlfriend effort. It becomes, I'm the prize, you're the wallet, and your role is to prove yourself. You can see it in the demands, salary minimums, lifestyle requirements, the expectation that a first date should look like a luxury commercial. The idea that you should finance someone's aesthetic, comfort, schedule, and future before she has proven loyalty, reliability, consistency, and reciprocity. And if you hesitate, you don't get a conversation. You get shame. A man says, I'm not comfortable paying for everything right away. And he gets labeled cheap, insecure, intimidated, not masculine, not a provider. He's mocked for having boundaries as if boundaries are a defect. Here's a principle men need to memorize because it protects you from manipulation without turning you cold. When someone gets angry at your boundaries, it's rarely because your boundaries are unfair. It's because your boundaries interfere with what they wanted to take. Now, zoom out, because this isn't just about a few loud clips. Culture is made by repetition. A minority can shift the tone if they're loud enough and rewarded enough. And social media rewards intensity. It rewards extremes, it rewards conflict. So the most unreasonable expectations get the most views, and views turn into influence. Then influence turns into normal. Then normal turns into pressure on everyone else. Even people who would never demand those things start absorbing the idea that this is what men are supposed to do. This is why men aren't just reacting to women. They're reacting to the incentive system. They're reacting to what gets praised. They're reacting to the fact that a lot of the loudest voices online are trying to turn relationships into a one-way pipeline where men provide, women receive. And questioning it makes you the villain. And here's where the conversation gets real. A lot of men are choosing to stay single because being single doesn't feel like loneliness anymore. It feels like relief. It's waking up without pressure. It's going through your day without feeling evaluated. It's building without being drained. It's peace, and peace becomes addictive once you've lived without it. Now, let's talk about marriage, because this is where men get nervous and where society often tries to guilt them into silence. A lot of men aren't avoiding love, they're avoiding legal entanglement. They watch men around them treat marriage like a sacred covenant, and then discover it can function like a high-risk financial contract when things go wrong. And before anyone twists that into bitterness, hear this clearly. Caution is not hatred. Risk awareness is not misogyny. Men are allowed to protect what they build. If you've spent 10 years grinding, saving, investing, buying property, building a business, building stability, it is not insecure to think carefully about agreements that could affect everything you earned. That's adulthood. What's changing is men are no longer willing to pretend the risks don't exist just to look romantic. So you see more men choosing commitment without contracts, relationships without the state involved, cohabitation without signing away leverage, ceremonies without legal documents, not because they want to cheat the system, but because they want love without becoming financially vulnerable to a system they don't trust. And again, this is not an attack on women. Plenty of women get hurt too. Plenty of women lose time, love, and security in bad relationships. But men are noticing a contradiction that nobody wants to address honestly. Men are told to show up like it's 1950, total financial responsibility, but also told to accept modern realities. Individualism, independence, options, and exit culture. In other words, traditional obligations for men, modern freedom for everyone. And that imbalance is what makes men quietly step back, because they're being asked to carry the heaviest role in a world that doesn't consistently reward it. Now add what social media has done to expectations. Social media doesn't show normal life. It shows highlights, luxury, curated couples, filtered bodies, staged affection, edited narratives. It sells fantasy and calls it standards. It sells rare outcomes and calls them normal. It sells the top fraction of lifestyle and convinces average people they're entitled to it as a baseline. And it distorts men too. Men get sold fantasies of endless options, perfect women, and immediate gratification. But here's the difference that matters. When men have unrealistic expectations, reality corrects them fast. Men get rejected. Men get humbled. Men adapt. When women have unrealistic expectations, social media often rewards it. It turns it into content. It creates echo chambers where thousands of people clap for ideas that don't survive contact with real life. That's how splitting the bill as abuse can be said seriously. That's how my maintenance is $20,000 a month becomes a brand. That's how dating advice begins to sound less like romance and more like extraction with better lighting. Now, listen carefully, because this is the heart of it. Most men aren't thinking all women are like this. Men are not stupid. They know women are individuals. They have sisters, mothers, friends, co-workers. They've seen love. They've seen loyalty. But when they see this content rewarded repeatedly, they think, this mentality is becoming acceptable. This mentality is getting celebrated. This mentality is loud enough that I'm likely to run into it. And they adjust accordingly because there is a growing culture of transactional dating, where some people openly admit they go on dates for free meals. They schedule men like weekly subscriptions, one for dinners, one for shopping, one for rent help, one for trips. They call it securing the bag. They call it leveling up. They frame manipulation as empowerment because it sounds cleaner than saying what it is, using people. Here's what men need to understand if they want to stop getting burned. If someone is comfortable using strangers for resources, they will be comfortable using you too. It doesn't become moral because you fell in love. Your feelings don't cleanse someone's character. A lot of men learn that the hard way. They learn that generosity is not the same as respect. They learn that paying doesn't guarantee appreciation. They learn that funding someone's lifestyle doesn't create loyalty. It creates entitlement. And entitlement doesn't shrink, it expands, because entitlement is a bottomless appetite. You don't satisfy it, you feed it. Now let's talk about escalation, because this is where men get exhausted even when they can technically afford it. The minimum standard keeps inflating. Coffee used to be a first date. Now it's, if you can't take her to an upscale dinner, you're not serious. Gifts used to be thoughtful. Now they're expected, frequent, expensive, and public, because if it's not posted, it doesn't count. Travel used to be occasional. Now it's, if you can't take me out of the country, you're not a real man. And the expectations don't just grow in price, they grow in speed. They grow in entitlement. They grow in the assumption that your money is her right. And why does it inflate? Because for some people, dating isn't just dating anymore. It's a performance, a public proof of status. You're not just her boyfriend, you're her brand asset. Your job is to help her look like she's winning. And if you date a woman who needs the relationship to impress an audience, you will suffer. Because an audience never stops wanting content. An audience never gets satisfied. An audience always wants more proof, more luxury, more spectacle. And if your relationship becomes a stage, your peace becomes the cost. Now, let's go deeper. A lot of men feel like they're competing with three things at once. They compete with other men, they compete with her friends' opinions, and they compete with her fantasies. Romance movies, curated couples, influencer lifestyles, luxury travel reels. The idea that love should feel like constant fireworks and expensive surprises. Reality cannot beat fantasy, not because reality is worse, but because fantasy has no limits. Fantasy doesn't have bills, stress, sick parents, low energy, responsibility. Fantasy doesn't require compromise or accountability. Fantasy is pure consumption. So when someone's expectations are shaped by fantasy, a normal man can never win because he's being measured against something that isn't real. And the man who keeps trying to win that contest becomes a shell, a performer, a provider with no peace, a man constantly on trial. He stops being a partner and starts being a candidate. And he lives in that candidate energy for years thinking, if I just do more, she'll finally relax. But she doesn't relax because the standard isn't actually about you. It's about her internal appetite. And when the appetite is entitlement, nothing is enough. Now, to keep this fair and honest, we need definitions because words matter. A standard is not the same as entitlement. A standard is, I want a man who is disciplined, stable, and intentional, and I bring discipline, stability, and intention too. A standard is mutual. It applies to both sides. It includes contribution. It includes character. It includes reciprocity. Entitlement is, I want a man to finance my lifestyle while I offer attitude, demands, and inconsistency. Entitlement is one way, a list of requirements for you and exemptions for her. That's why men are walking away, not from women, from one-way deals. Now let's talk about accountability, because this is where modern dating becomes a mess. A healthy adult can look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm part of the problem, but online dating culture treats self-reflection like weakness. Everyone wants to be the victim. Everyone wants sympathy. Everyone wants to control the narrative. So when relationships fail, it's never, I made poor choices. It becomes, men are intimidated. When someone is single at 40, it's never, my patterns pushed good men away. It's, there are no good men left. When someone has chaos behind them, it's never, I tolerated low standards. It's, I was unlucky. And when accountability disappears, the same mistakes repeat forever with new faces. Men notice this. Men notice when someone demands a high-value partner but has no high-value habits. No discipline, no emotional stability, no financial responsibility, no humility, no gratitude, no ability to build, just demands, just I deserve, just pay. And more men are responding with a simple sentence that ends the conversation. I'm good, not angry, not bitter, just done. Now, here's where people get defensive, so I'm going to say this clearly. This isn't only a female issue. There are men who manipulate, men who use, men who lie, cheat, waste women's time, and offer nothing. Low integrity exists everywhere, but men are withdrawing in larger numbers right now because the cost of being wrong is high, emotionally, financially, legally. And men are noticing that modern culture doesn't consistently reward men who try to do things right. It often rewards the loudest demands, the quickest exits, and the most strategic manipulation. So men adapt the way men always adapt. They pull back, they build, they protect, they become harder to access. And the irony is this, a lot of men are happier, not because they hate love, but because they're no longer being drained by someone else's escalating expectations. They choose hobbies over chaos, brotherhood over drama, fitness, money, peace, and purpose over impressing someone who is never satisfied. Now, let's redefine what single means for a man who does it correctly. It doesn't mean isolation. It means sovereignty. You own your schedule. You own your money. You own your attention. You decide where your energy goes. And if you do it right, single life becomes a platform for building your body without distraction, building your career without emotional chaos, building your finances without funding someone else's lifestyle, building your mind without constant conflict, building a social circle that strengthens you instead of draining you. And from that place, you become a dangerous thing in modern dating, a man who is not desperate for companionship. You can choose companionship if it's healthy, but you don't need it to feel whole. That is real power. wanting love without needing it, because the man who needs love will accept disrespect. The man who wants love will require standards. Now we get practical, because this isn't just commentary, this is a filter. If you're a man navigating modern dating, you need to screen, not with paranoia, with clarity. You need to protect your time, money, and mental health without turning cynical. Here's how you do it. First, listen to how she talks about men. If every ex is a villain and she has zero responsibility in any story, you're not meeting a person. You're meeting a pattern, and patterns repeat. Second, watch her relationship with work and responsibility. She doesn't need to be rich, but she should respect effort. She should have direction, a sense of building. If her plan is find a man to pay for everything, that's not romance, that's a business model. Third, watch how she responds to boundaries. A healthy woman respects a calm boundary. An exploitative woman punishes you for it. She'll mock you, guilt you, withdraw, test, or label you. That reaction is information. Believe it. Fourth, watch reciprocity. Does she give energy back? Does she plan sometimes? Does she contribute? Does she show appreciation? Does she make your life easier or only more expensive? Because a relationship is either adding peace or subtracting peace. There's no neutral. Fifth, watch consistency. Is she stable, or is she addicted to spikes, drama, intensity, and emotional roulette? If she needs chaos to feel alive, she will manufacture it in your life, and you'll spend years thinking you're dating a woman when you're actually dating a nervous system that only feels normal in dysfunction. Sixth, watch humility. The most dangerous person to date is the person who feels entitled to everything and accountable for nothing. That person doesn't build relationships. They consume them. They treat your effort as the entry fee and your boundaries as an insult. Now, if you apply these filters, you stop blaming dating culture as a whole, because you learn to separate good women from bad patterns quickly. And yes, good women exist. Women who value partnership, who appreciate effort, who build, who are calm, loyal, emotionally mature. Women who don't see men as ATMs. Women who want real life, not performance. Women who are not trying to win dating, but trying to build something stable and honest. But you won't consistently find them if you keep rewarding the loud, entitled ones. You won't find them if your standards are weak. You won't find them if you're desperate, because desperation makes men accept bad deals. Desperation makes men overpay for attention. Desperation makes men tolerate disrespect. And desperation is exactly what exploitative people look for. That's why the modern man's greatest skills is being comfortable alone, not as an escape, as a foundation. If you can sit in silence and feel stable, you cannot be manipulated by threats of leaving. If you can enjoy your own life, you won't tolerate disrespect just to avoid being single. If you have purpose, you won't chase someone whose only power is attention. If you have standards, you won't negotiate your dignity for temporary affection. So when you see those viral clips, maintenance costs, bill splitting outrage, rent finesse courses, don't just get angry. Get clear. Recognize what it represents, a loud segment of culture trying to normalize extraction, and then decide what kind of man you're going to be in response. Are you going to be the man who overpays for attention, or the man who builds his life so well that attention becomes optional because the future belongs to men who can do one thing most people can't: walk away without hate, walk away without drama, walk away without begging, walk away with peace? That's power, that's discipline, that's sovereignty. And that is what many men are choosing right now. They're not saying love is bad. They're saying the wrong deal with the wrong person is expensive. They're refusing to fund entitlement, refusing to be emotionally taxed, refusing to be shamed into one-way contracts. And if you're a man listening to this, you don't need bitterness. You need standards. You need clarity. You need to protect your time like it matters, because it does. Now, let's go even deeper, because some men are making a mistake in the opposite direction. They see the worst examples online and they become permanently guarded. They become suspicious of every woman. They treat every date like a lawsuit. They become hard, cold, cynical. And then they wonder why they can't find connection. So let's be precise. The solution is not hatred. The solution is discernment. The solution is boundaries. The solution is choosing women based on character, not chemistry. Because chemistry without character is how men end up funding chaos. You need to understand something else too. Not everyone who has expensive taste is entitled. Not everyone who wants a traditional relationship is exploiting you. Some women genuinely want to build a home, raise a family, and support a man. Some women are generous, nurturing, loyal, and stable. And if you meet that woman and treat her like she's guilty before proven innocent, you'll push her away. So the goal isn't to punish women. The goal is to stop rewarding bad behavior and to stop confusing beauty with quality. Here's a simple framework that keeps you balanced. Every woman you date is showing you one of two models. Model one, partnership. Her presence makes your life easier, calmer, stronger. She respects your boundaries. She reciprocates. She's consistent. She can take accountability. She can communicate without threats. She values building. Model two, extraction. Her presence makes your life more expensive, more stressful, more chaotic. She punishes boundaries. She escalates demands. She's inconsistent. She avoids accountability. She uses shame as a tool. She treats your money as proof of love. Now here's the key. Don't argue with the model. Don't try to teach an extractive person partnership. Just leave, because the longer you stay, the more you train her that extraction works. And men need to hear this part because a lot of good men are still trapped in the old programming. They think patience will fix entitlement. They think generosity will earn respect. They think doing more will make her appreciate more. But entitlement doesn't respond to gifts. It responds to consequences, and not dramatic consequences, quiet ones. Access decreases, investment stops, energy is withdrawn, the relationship ends. That's the only language extraction understands. Now, let's talk about what men can do to make sure they don't become targets for extraction in the first place. Because exploitative people select men who have certain vulnerabilities, men who are lonely, men who are desperate, men who are seeking validation, men who confuse attention with love, men who have weak boundaries, men who are afraid of being alone. So if you want to stop attracting women who extract, you build the opposite traits. You build a life you don't need to escape from. You build a strong social circle. You build discipline. You build self-respect. You learn to be comfortable alone. You learn to say no without explaining yourself into a hole. You learn to walk away without needing the last word. Because the man who can walk away is the man who cannot be controlled. And here's something else men need to accept. Your money is not your masculine identity. Your spending is not proof of your value. Your bank account is a tool, not your soul. If you start dating like your wallet is your personality, you will attract women who want your wallet. If you want a woman to desire you as a man, you must show up as a man, not as a sponsor, not as a rescue mission, not as a financial plan, as a man with standards, direction, and calm authority. Now, a lot of men will say, but if I don't pay, she'll leave. And my answer is, good, let her leave. Because a woman who leaves because you didn't finance her on day one is not a woman you were building with. She was shopping. And you don't build a future with someone who's shopping for a man like he's a subscription. And yes, some men will ask, but what about being generous? You can be generous. Generosity is a strength when it's chosen freely. But when generosity is demanded, it becomes tribute. And tribute is what weak kings pay to avoid war. A man with standards doesn't pay tribute, he invests, and investment requires trust, time, and proof. Now we land the plane. If you're a man watching this, the goal is not to become anti-woman. That's childish. The goal is to become pro-you, pro-peace, pro-standards, pro-boundaries. Because when you protect your peace, you naturally attract better. And even if you don't attract better immediately, you still win because you didn't destroy your life trying to impress someone who can't be satisfied. So when you see the viral clips, maintenance costs, bill splitting outrage, rent finesse courses, don't spiral. Don't argue with strangers in the comments. Don't build hatred in your chest. Use it as a reminder to screen carefully, a reminder to build your life, a reminder to protect your finances, a reminder to not confuse attention with love. A reminder to choose character over chemistry. Now I want to hear from you. What's the most unreasonable expectation you've encountered in modern dating? Not as a complaint, as a data point. What made you realize the deal wasn't balanced? And what boundary changed your life? Drop it in the comments. Keep it honest and keep it respectful, because the goal isn't gender war. The goal is better decisions. And if you want more content that helps men navigate modern dating with calm, self-respect, and real-world strategy, subscribe. We're building men who don't chase approval, men who don't get baited into chaos, men who don't sacrifice their future for someone else's fantasy. Peace is not weakness. Peace is power. And in this era, the man who protects his peace wins.